Most of it?
They already know.
Yeah, they already know. There's no, doesn't need a,
I'll blur it out.
It wasn't a secret. Put a little black dot on his head.
and you add a little rug to the top there.
A little censored
A
thing.
little extra carpet.
I'll draw on it. All right.
All right.
And we're ready to go. We're bringing in the big hitters today.
All right, big hitter, big Wes Maness today. Wes is, just real quick, he's our corporate counsel we have here at Angmar. And go ahead and get him introduced. And Wes, tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, where school, and all that good stuff. And then we'll kind of go from that point.
All right. Well, my name is Wesly Maness. I'm from.
Whoa. Calm down. You are way too high end.
You're a way too lawyer.
Way too lawyer. Yeah. Got to maintain. Well, I'm not going to hop up and down or anything.
Yet.
From Arlington, Texas. Born and raised Arlington, Texas. Still live there. Happy to be a Texan. Well, let's see. Went to school, obviously, public school, Arlington. Went to Tarleton State University.
I didn't know lawyers went to public school.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Back in the day, you know.
Oh, back in the day.
Back in the day, you
Yeah.
know. Can't tell, but I'm a lot older than you, so,
No, not by the hair,
yeah. Yeah, that's the only thing.
beard.
Beard.
If I shaved my beard, I wouldn't have gray on my face either.
Yeah, well, it's all strategic, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tarleton State University, got my degree in criminal justice and a minor in government. Never used that. Don't want to use that.
No. Why
Yeah.
Tarleton?
Tarleton,
Because that's where you're going to go.
that's where I'm going to go.
That's where you're going to go.
That's where my dad told me I was going to go to school, so that's where I went.
I don't hate that.
Where is that?
Stephenville, Texas,
Oh, Stephenville. Okay.
about an hour and a half away.
All right.
Yeah. Great high school football team for a while there.
Yeah.
I guess they still are.
That was old original.
Friday Night Lights.
Art Briles was.
Art Briles, boy, he's got history.
Yeah. We won't go down that road on this episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was known for out there.
Right. Anyway, went there. I was on track to go into the federal enforcement, either DEA or FBI, and then decided I didn't want to do that stuff. And then my professor said, hey, why don't you go to law school? So I went to law school. I'm not one of these lifelong, I always want to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
I just kind of went into it. And then while I was doing all that, I was a cabinet builder, so that guided me into construction.
Yeah.
So construction law and construction litigation is what I started out doing, and that kind of morphed into other areas. But
Law school was Baylor.
went to Baylor University,
Right.
spent 3 years there.
Go
Back-
Bears.
Go Bears. Back when Baylor was affordable. Now it's
Stupid.
it's up there with all the others now.
Right.
It was pretty inexpensive till they built that new law school
Yeah.
on the river. Yeah. Beautiful
Redid,
place.
redid a bunch of landscaping through there and
Yeah,
made it very, very pretty
very much so.
for Waco.
Yeah. Waco.
Yep.
There's a lot to say about Waco, but we'll skip that.
Magnolia.
Yeah.
Magnolia, it wasn't there when I was in
Right.
Waco. You had Baylor and
George's.
George's with the big O's.
Yep. Big O beers. Some of
Yeah.
the coldest beer ever.
The
You're welcome, George's.
first chain restaurant there, I think, was Olive Garden. Before that, you had Luby's and had Luby's and Domino's. That's about it. So,
Okay.
other than that, it wasn't much of a town. Now it's extremely grown up.
Yeah.
But left Waco, went to Dallas and started at one of the mega firms. Very good firm. I still like them. Winstead was there for a while, then moved my practice with two other guys making us three, in Arlington. Spent a few years there and then joined Shannon Gracie. Stayed there 13 years and then came here.
Okay.
Did a little work for the owner of Angmar, and then he
Your
just-
your office over in Arlington was that was at the WBAP building there.
Right.
Right.
When it was just the three of us, we were in the WBAP building, and then when I joined Shannon Gracie, we were in one of the offices at the ballpark,
Right.
overlooking the bullpen. It was always a nice.
Which was funny because back then, I mean, kind of knew of you, didn't know much. I mean, we were just crossing with some mutual friends.
Yeah.
And we would share the same conference room.
Yeah.
Between the brokerage I was with at that time. And,
Yeah, I didn't know
and
Aaron
you
at the
guys.
time, but Aaron was on the same floor as us, and they had a community conference room that was connected to our office, but everybody used it in the building.
Yep.
So, yeah, we crossed paths, and then he worked for one of my clients for a while, still didn't know him. He was
Right.
in sales, so never had to deal much with Aaron. And then,
It's a good thing.
yeah, it's a
Probably
good thing.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we met up here. Actually, you sold some property for me
Yeah,
before
sold some
that.
property that you were partnering on with the mutual friend.
Yeah,
And, yeah, just kind of worked out from there. And, I mean, feel like I've known you as long as I've known that friend of ours. And just kind of grown from there. And now you are general counsel for Angemar Companies,
actually, it's Chief
Or-
Legal Officer,
CLO.
CLO.
He's our CLO. Our
Our
CLO for Angemar, excuse me.
Right. And in that, I support all of the entities with, be it the bars or the gun stores
Right.
and restaurants and of course, real estate. You know, I've slid into more of that. That's a nice connection to my construction litigation background. So
Right.
there's always real estate involved in that.
What's the most interesting law that you work on? I mean,
Law?
law, legal, legal stuff.
Legal
What do you
stuff?
prefer? What is your niche? You do it all. I mean,
I do a lot of contracts. I wouldn't say that's my favorite thing, but I'm pretty comfortable doing contracts. Litigation's fun on the right kind of case when it's coming down. I don't like the slip and fall cases. Those are irritating because,
you can usually spot those pretty quick too.
yeah, they're usually, somebody shows up and said they fell and they, went millions of dollars because they couldn't watch where they were walking.
Oh, man, how do I get one of those?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to tell you.
I know it's been a huge benefit too having you on board with us on the real estate department, and having you as the CLO,
The clue. Yeah.
look over real estate contracts, leases, and stuff. Whether we're doing it, our arm's length stuff, in house, third party stuff. I mean, it's a huge benefit having. an
Yeah, it's
attorney.
interesting. It's expanded what I do a lot too, because previously usually I come across problems after they've occurred. So at this end, we get to
Head it off.
head it off. We get to see them before they start and hopefully identify issues and correct them before we move forward. On real estate stuff like, disclosures, the land use, and whether or not there's easements or problems for our intended use of the property and that kind of thing.
Any encumbrances that might be on title that we can object to. I mean,
Right.
a lot of the feedback I get from not just title companies but other clientele is like, wow, you guys move fast in a very legal manner, I guess, very protective legal manner, and that's a comfort level for clients to have that, obviously.
It's always interesting to me when somebody sends a contract over, be it construction contract or even just a purchase agreement, that kind of thing, that most people tend to think that, well, there's the form, I got to sign it, and that's just not the case. I mean, you look at the contract, there's always a few zingers in there that most people just sign off on, but you shouldn't. I mean,
I've done that.
yeah, most people do that, oddly.
That doesn't surprise me.
And then you go in, I always go straight to look first for the indemnity provisions, where you're usually agreeing to indemnify them for their own negligence, and you want to avoid that if at all possible. But there's always a few things in there that the other lawyer who wrote the form that they've been using, puts in there just to see if anybody notices, or that's obviously best for their client. But most other lawyers always recognize, when something comes back that, yeah, I knew they were probably going to try to strike that provision.
They're
But,
aware.
Yeah.
And they're fine with it once it's
Right.
struck.
Yeah, they know it's coming.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't come, then all the better for them.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and then you get the ones that are maybe haven't been doing it as long, and they're like, well, we've done that with all of our tenants.
Yeah,
all of
this
our
is-
tenants, all of it.
This is our form. And
This
then
is
you
our
explain to them why, well, that's not acceptable. Tell me why
Yeah.
it's okay for me to indemnify you for something you do without
Right.
my participation.
And it's
And
always,
then they don't have an answer, and they say, okay, we'll take that out.
and it's always entertaining when we get to see some of our potential landlords maybe get upset with their legal side. Like,
Yeah.
oh, why, how come you didn't point this out before? You know, why is this now an issue? And
Yeah.
well, just making you aware. There's
We've had a couple of deals fall through for it, but
Yeah.
I mean, the
We're
contract's
protected.
just unacceptable to have that kind of a written agreement, so you just move on.
absolutely.
I always look at things in worst case scenario. I mean, it usually doesn't come down to that, but I always got to look for the worst case because you don't want to be left holding the bag when you had an opportunity to address it beforehand.
Yeah. I mean, we're constantly day in and day out. Not a single lease or contract is the same. I don't care what anybody says. They're all different. They may all say the same thing in different ways, different manners, different locations, but yeah, it keeps it interesting, keeps us on our toes, and
Yeah.
it's always good to have second set of eyes.
So having
Look,
somebody like you, like a lawyer, an actual lawyer, commercial versus residential, is there a big difference? Is there a
In real estate, yeah, there is. Residential contracts are a lot different than commercial contracts. Commercial contracts usually you've got subcontractors involved, and, well, that's the construction side. If you're
Right.
talking about actual commercial property purchase, you got to look into actual, the land use and the restrictions that are going to come with it. Residential is usually already a house there. They're going to build a house, and the builder's already gone through all those hurdles. Commercial, it may be just raw land, and you don't know whether or not you're going to be able to use it like you want to use it or not. You got to look into the zoning, any deed restrictions that might be there.
So if you were to, like an individual were to buy a plot, well, I don't know, 50 acres, would that land, with just open land, and they want to build a house and a barn, would that land lend itself more to your services than like a normal residential, or would that be kind of like a hybrid?
That would, 50 acres, first of all, it's probably going to be out in the county and not in the city limits. So
Yeah.
you don't have all that.
Unincorporated area.
Areas. Then you've got utilities to worry about because there might not be utilities
Yeah.
there. Water, electricity. Electricity's not usually that hard to get, but sewer.
Sometimes when I've been looking out there, 10 acres, 50 acres, 1,000 acres, I don't know, whatever. Sometimes there's like electric, those big,
you can afford it.
No, I'm just looking.
Yeah, wait a minute. What are we doing in here, dude?
out in the desert, $1 an acre. But sometimes there's those big electric lines going right through, a portion of the
Yeah,
property.
easements,
Like the
utilities.
large, real big ones, going all the way through the state. What happens with those?
Oh, those stay.
Yeah,
You
gotta-
can't build.
you can't build anywhere around.
Can't build
it,
on.
right?
Usually, it depends on the easement. I mean, every residential property is going to have, even commercial property is going to have an easement for utilities. Residential, it's usually underground. And you don't have much. You can use the surface as long as you don't do anything that's going to inhibit their ability
Yeah.
to get to their lines whenever they want.
Oh, okay.
So you can use the surface, but you can't affect their ability to dig down if they need to.
What about minerals and all that?
That's a separate ownership issue.
Yeah.
I mean, at the beginning, the minerals are connected with the fee property, they call it, the actual land itself. It's all one. But as you see in Texas a lot, they separate it after the minerals become valuable. And you might buy a house, but you don't get the minerals.
Right.
Doesn't affect you at all, other than you don't get the royalties. You can't sell it. Any profit they get from the minerals, that's not yours.
Is that included in our commercial?
Yeah, that's a part of commercial as well.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things you look for on that is if there is a mineral estate that's on there that has a lease. I mean, you want to
Yes.
see and make sure, obviously, too, if it is a larger property or even smaller, is there a surface waiver in place for that property so you can actually build on it?
Right. And I've seen some ranch land where, long ago, somebody granted a pipeline easement for oil or gas, and it's just a blanket. That's
Yeah.
one thing you always
They
got to
can
look
put
for.
it wherever they want to.
Oh, geez.
Anywhere they want.
Yeah.
Anytime they want.
It's a mess.
So you get to use the surface estate as long as you want, anywhere you want, unless it gets in their way. And they may have pipelines running along the property line, which is fine, and then they decide, well, we need to go across here, and our easement says we can do that. So you're just kind of stuck with it.
Can you cancel it once it's done?
No,
No, you don't own it.
no, it's as
Oh,
good
so you
as
do it, you would have to buy it from the utility or whatever.
buy it or get them to abandon it. That's something to look at when you're buying the property. You want to know what easements are there and where they run and whether or not they're specifically identified to a location. You
What
always
about-
would.
And
Future, like 20 years into the future, they're gonna build a highway here. Is that,
That's a eminent domain issue
Yeah,
right there.
right. Highest and best use and what they're going to plan to do with it.
Yeah, they have to make a case that this is where it has to be. It's for the benefit of the public one way or other. I mean, stadiums are a little different because
right?
that's a whole different argument right there, whether or not they're actually a benefit. A lot of times they are because they put them in bad areas that clears out
Yeah.
what they call a blighted area. That's one of the justifications for it. But whenever they're going to run a highway, there's a lot of misunderstanding about that. They don't just come and take it. They actually have to buy it. They don't
Right.
get to come take your land.
Fair market value.
Right, and that's where the source of the arguments usually are. They argue about, well, right now it's just open land, it's not worth much. Yeah, but when that highway goes through there, all sides of it that, are going to be developed, they're increasing in value. So you have
Yep.
arguments going back and forth. That's usually where all the lawsuits are, is what is the actual value of the land that they're taking. But make no mistake, they're more likely than not going to get the land. It's rare that protest against eminent domain works. It does sometimes, but
Yeah. I guess that goes way back to the beginning of the 1900s, I guess, when they were building the railroads, and they were excited if the railroad was going to come through town.
right, because they're
Or-
usually remote, and that's
Right.
a big source of commerce.
Or even a new highway like Route 66. They wanted to build their town around that.
Right.
Now you're also, I mean, there's a lot more utility lines obviously now than there ever has been,
Right.
as well as the population. It's all relative, but dealing with the wind rights like we discussed
Oh,
before
really?
and previous. I mean, and there's transmission lines from those wind turbines. And
Right. That can be lucrative for the landowner. The surrounding landowners who don't get the wind turbines are usually upset about it because they have to look at them and they're not getting anything, and it's spoiling their view. There's
And
been
you've actually had quite a bit of experience too with these
Yeah.
wind farms.
Yeah, one of my clients has, well, a couple of clients have some wind farms out there, and when they came in, first of all, they talked to everybody. You got the people who are, we don't want wind turbines in the area, and they try to band together and keep it from happening, but that usually doesn't work. I mean, there's been litigation has finally come down, and the courts have ruled that you don't have the right to a beautiful view across your neighbor's property. So that was one of the arguments is, I bought this place because it's out in the middle of nowhere, and all
Right.
I see are here hills and trees and deer.
Right.
And then they brought that all the way up, and the argument was, you have a right for your land not to be obstructed or bothered in any way, but you don't have a right to view across your neighbor's
You're
property.
looking at the neighbor's property, and that's not your
That's right.
property.
It's not your property.
So I guess the moral of the story is back up to maybe national parks or something.
Well, those don't always stay. There's the Fairfield. It's not national. It's a state park. The Fairfield Park. Forgot it. It's just Lake Fairfield
Lake
out
Fairfield.
Yeah.
That I didn't know this until late last year.
I told you about it. I was like, man, check out this piece for sale.
Yeah, that property was actually leased by the state of Texas as Fairfield Park. It's been there as long as I know. I've been camping there many times. It's a wonderful place. Anyway, the landowner decided not to renew the lease, and now it's being sold to a developer.
Big developer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you can't always count on that. I will say that's rare. I was shocked to see that happen. I doubt any federal parks are leased, but I don't know that either.
Yeah.
But that's probably a good way of thinking of it, I guess.
Okay,
Back up
okay.
to something that's not going to go away and
Yeah.
be developed or
Right.
sold off. But you can't always count on that.
And unfortunately, too, when you've got big rolling hills or higher elevations property on large tracts like that, there's a good chance that they could throw in some wind turbines somewhere around there and put together a big farm.
Yeah, I was
because
really surprised when I went up to Oklahoma. What is that? Turner Falls or whatever.
Mhm.
I
Oh,
went
yeah.
up there at one point. That's all you saw was hills. And I went up there just recently, That's all you see now is turbines.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's that
Wind
elevation.
turbines.
They're getting right on the edge of those cliffs.
Yep.
Yeah. Now
Catch-
there's another, not all the states have come down on it, but there's another line of litigation coming around talking about whether or not wind rights are like mineral rights. You know, you can separate them from the property. The question is, well, can I, lease the wind rights to a power company, and then when I sell the land, retain those wind rights?
Oh.
It doesn't make sense to me because wind moves.
It's fine, you got a wind, and then you still have to have surface in certain areas to put those turbines up to
Right.
catch the wind.
And then somebody who
But-
buys, 1,000 acres, like you're looking at somewhere, buys 1,000
Window
acres.
shopping.
In the desert
Yeah,
for $1 an
because
acre.
it looks nice and they like being out in the middle of nowhere. And then the person they bought the property from sells the wind rights, and suddenly they got wind turbines on there. Not
Right.
much you can do about that, if that's the case.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of that being the case, just because wind is not captured on the land like minerals are.
So someone can go around buying up mineral rights, not the land?
Yep.
Have been, yep.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of oil and gas companies do that.
Oh.
I mean, they'll lease it, but then, like on my house, I've had 3 or 4 letters in the past 10 years of the oil and gas company wanting to buy my
Really?
mineral rights and cancel the lease.
You didn't do it?
No, it's not enough money to worry about.
No. No. You can't retire on it.
No, no, I get my $200 a year off my.
200.
Mailbox money.
That's right. Woohoo!
Well, cool. Well, how many are you taking on any other outside clientele at this time? And
I take on some. I've got some regulars that I keep that work for some builders and subcontractors, and then some other just general business matters. But I try to restrict that a good bit because I don't want it to interfere with my availability to do work for the Angmar companies. But I still keep a few things going on here and here, but just because they've always been good clients, and I want to keep helping them out
Yeah.
as much as I can.
makes sense.
So when you talk to your neighbors, your kids, whoever, are you a corporate lawyer or are you just, what's,
I'm just a lawyer. I don't
just a
use
lawyer doesn't matter?
Does it
Yeah.
all.
I don't.
He'll fight tickets for you
Yeah.
Oh, really?
if he knows you.
Yeah.
I just got out of one. I don't know how.
Good for you.
Yeah.
You sure you
Fort Worth.
you just didn't show up, and that way?
No. I said the building blew up, and then they said, okay, we're going to let you off. And
Oh,
The building blew up.
the issue downtown.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, the one downtown at
Yeah.
the hotel.
Yep.
Good Lord, that's a mess.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a totally different deal.
Yeah. Be interesting to see how that shakes out. But so, wait, were you parked somewhere? Is that what it was?
It was in that parking lot, and the day
Okay.
before.
Oh wow.
Was your car in the place where?
Yeah,
I'm gonna
it was right next to it, yeah.
Should have a deeper discussion about what was in your car at that time. So.
Yeah, what was in there? I don't know. I was walking across the street, definitely, to Thompson's.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha. All right. Well, I can't think of anything else right now at this time to.
Oh, hold on, we got a caller. Caller.
Oh, caller, go ahead.
Come on in.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a question.
Yeah.
Do you chase ambulances?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
If we need you to.
Yeah. That would be interesting, maybe have call in, and then you can charge them, like,
Oh God.
by the minute.
Oh
We got
God.
a counter right here, yeah.
Yeah.
Please enter credit card number.
No,
That'd be-
that's one thing. You can't give real good legal advice over the phone.
You're not allowed to?
Well,
You can, but it's hard to collect.
Well, no, not just that, but there's always a whole lot more to the story
Oh.
than you get from a conversation. I mean, you can get an idea whether or not it's something I could help with or not, or need to refer to somebody else. But
Yeah.
I can't solve a problem on the phone. I can just kind of gather facts and
You prefer person to person,
Yeah.
face to face.
give you my initial thought, but that's subject to, the 99% of what's going on I don't know about yet.
Oh. All right.
Gotcha.
Right.
Well,
All right. What's the best way for somebody to reach you if they need some legal advice?
To reach me,
Yeah.
well, I'd
call Angemar. Call me.
Yeah, call you.
Call me.
Yeah, I'm not
Let me do it.
soliciting.
I'll do a pre-screening for you.
Yeah, I'm not soliciting any work here right now.
Oh, you also do gun trusts.
Right.
Put together gun trusts
That's-
for anybody looking for NFA.
Right. That's part of Marksman Firearms next door.
Right.
I
mean,
do that
trusts.
for them.
So all the guns go into a trust?
That's one way to do it. A trust is a vehicle that owns the guns or the suppressors or the
NFA items. I
NFA
guess.
items. Yeah, National Firearms Act. Certain things that you have to have a special tax stamp to get.
Suppressors.
Suppressors.
Short-barreled rifles.
Right.
Short-barrel shotguns. Stuff
That-
like that. Any kind of NFA.
Anything that the NFA regulates, and you've got to, send in your fingerprints, you've got to pay the fee to get a stamp, got to get it approved. And the
Yeah.
benefit to doing that is because the trust actually owns the firearm or the accessory or whatever it is that you're purchasing, anybody who is a co-trustee has access to that item to use it. Whereas typically for example, if you get a suppressor, you get your tax stamp and it's a suppressor in your name, you're the only one who can possess that.
Right.
Other people can be around it with you, that kind of thing, but nobody else can just possess it. But in a trust, anybody who is a trustee of that trust has access to it as a trustee because the trust owns it, and a trust is not a person. And the co-trustees who are in charge of it,
Have
they can
access.
use it.
So
That's-
does that have to be set up differently as, like houses and land and things can be put into a trust? Are there different trusts that need to be set up?
Yes. Trusts are different. It all depends on the purpose, what you intend it to achieve, and that kind of thing. A gun trust typically is just a gun trust.
Yep.
I mean, there are other trusts that can hold lots of other things, property, possessions, anything like that. But with regard to the gun trust, those typically are always just gun trust. I'm sure there's some vehicle out there that can do both.
Right.
That's more complicated than most people want to get into
Yeah,
when they're trying
right.
to set up a trust for guns.
I love
The
it.
process of doing a gun trust, if somebody wants one set up to have you do it, they call you, email you.
Well, they go through Marksman.
Go
They
through
to
Marksman.
Marksman and they, decide whether or not they're going to buy that NFA item. And if they are, they can either put it in their name or in a trust. And if they want a trust, then they fill out a bunch of information and then I look at it and see what works for them. And typically we'll, confirm a few things here and there and then put it together. And then Marksman uses that trust to put in for
Shoot
the
it back to
stamp.
them, have it notarized, bam,
Yeah.
then they can start buying stuff.
Can you do it after the fact? After you already own it?
Yeah, you can transfer things into the trust,
Okay.
but the trust is going to have to get a federal tax stamp as well for that item.
Okay. I think I'm going to be talking to you after this.
If you don't have one already, get it done.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, trusts are a good benefit for NFA items.
Yep.
All of mine are in a trust.
Yep, same here. Well, good deal. All right, well, appreciate it. Thanks for coming on here and filling everybody in on stuff that may have questioned on before, so.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
and,
Might have to have you back on here to talk about some of those specifics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love it. All right.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
You're
thank you.
welcome.
All right.